On this episode of Arts Weekly, I'll be speaking with Denice, Beights, and Brian Clissold from the Fort Wayne Children's Choir.
But the difference between us and a sports team like a basketball or football team is everybody performs, everybody plays.
And Thom Hofrichter from the First Presbyterian Theater.
He finds a way with beautiful, beautiful words to say what is locked inside every human soul.
This is Arts Weekly.
Arts Weekly is a production of the College of Visual and Performing Arts at IPFW, offering degrees in fine arts, music, theater, and visual communication and design. IPFW, the energy of arts.
Hello, this is Chuck O'Connor, and this is Arts Weekly. Joining me is Denice Beights, Executive Director of the Fort Wayne Children's Choir, and Brian Clissold, Artistic Director. They're here to talk about the Fort Wayne Children's Choir. Thank you both for coming on the show.
Thank you for having us.
The Fort Wayne Children's Choir is a company in residence at IPFW. What does it mean to be a company in residence?
It means that we are part of the music education family here on campus. We have our offices here, we have all of our rehearsals here, and we couldn't be more happy to be here.
Yes, and I noticed all the cars pulling up with the children
yes.
Every evening. And was it about 5, 6 o'clock?
Yeah, it is. We drop off and pick up is a crazy time out there.
But seriously, you guys teach and have choirs for quite a number of children. Tell us a little bit, Brian, about the history of the choir and some of the things that you do.
Well, we have a fantastic heritage that goes back 37 years. This is actually our 38th season, and it started just as a community-based choir of just like 30 kids to start off with, and now we have almost 300 kids and 8 ensembles, 7 of which are performing ensembles. So it's grown quite a bit. I'm new to the organization. It grew leaps and bounds under the previous artistic director, Fred Meads, and we're proud of our heritage and glad to see it continuing into the future.
And where do you hail from?
Originally from Battle Creek, Michigan, and I came here by way of Indianapolis.
I see. Well, you're both rather new. Denice, you as well. You've been about a year and a half, couple years here.
Correct.
As the executive director of the choir. Since you're both new and you're building upon such a strong legacy of the choir, what are some of the things that you hope to see and things that you hope to accomplish?
Sure. Well, one of the things is to expand the reach of the children's choir, and we want to do that 2 ways. One, we want to offer the program to more kids in the community and throughout the region. And recently we received a grant from the Follinger Foundation to do just that, to do research on satellite choirs. And so we're starting to do that this year by looking at other programs throughout the country, Chicago, Boston, and look at their satellite programs. And in the meantime, we've started a pilot satellite in Columbia City. So we're offering the program to kids who couldn't ordinarily get to campus and offering our program to them right where they are.
So if I understand this, a satellite program is a program that's offered off campus?
Correct.
In another community?
Correct.
I see. In addition to the 7 choirs, let's talk a little bit about how you structure the Fort Wayne Children's Choir. Brian, you say you have 7.
Mm-hmm.
What ages, and how do you differentiate the different choirs among those age groups?
We start at about age 8, and we go all the way up through high school. We have kids literally age 8 to 18. And the ensembles are primarily divvied up based on skill, but age is a factor as well. You know, if you have a beginning singer who's 13, we don't want to put them in with 8-year-olds. You know, it just wouldn't be fun for anyone. But it's primarily ability-based, and at the end of each year, they have a conference with their director to see if they're ready to move up to the next level.
Mm-hmm. And how do children or parents find out about the choir? Do the students need to audition, or how does that work?
They do audition. We primarily work through the music teachers in the schools, and we have a music advisory board that Brian works with, so we let them know about the program. They are very familiar with who we are and what we do. And then in March, at the end of March, we arm them with packets that they can take back to every music teacher in the region, and they can, again, pass on that information to the students and talk to their parents, and then they call us and we schedule an audition.
Okay, so then are students separated by ability or age, or a combination of the two?
Combination of the two. Yeah. And I just wanted to mention that anybody can audition. You know, the schools are our primary network, but we have a lot of kids from homeschool programs who may not have another outlet for singing. You know, there isn't a school choir to join, or if their school doesn't happen to have a choir and they really want to sing. So anyone can audition. But yes, they would call us for an audition. We audition in small groups of 5 or 6 kids at a time based on age. And then from the results of that audition, we look at where they are musically and where they might fit in best in the program.
Is it fair to say that you select the music based on the child's ability? In other words, you're not probably performing a Bach or something like that when somebody's 8 years old, but as you explained it before the show, Brian, there's actually music composed particularly for certain age groups and abilities.
Exactly. In the last decade or so, the children's choir as a genre and as a type of musical ensemble has really taken off. And there are literally thousands of really good, well-crafted pieces of music just for children's choir of all ages. There are pieces of music geared towards the younger 8, 9, 10-year-olds and also the older, more advanced students.
You're both music educators, essentially, aren't you?
Correct.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You have degrees in music education, and you bring that focus as opposed to just, in addition to, I should say, performance and conducting abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And I should also say that our other directors are music educators. 2 of them are in the Fort Wayne Community Schools, and one is at Holy Cross. So really it's very process-oriented. Even though it's a performance-based program, a lot of learning goes on.
Now, I was reading your mission statement previously the other day, and you're really also focused on a lot of other life-building skills at the choir. What sort of other things do kids get out of being a part of the choir?
Leadership, teamwork, discipline, the ability to understand how a team works. You can look at it similar to a sports kind of team, but the difference between us and a sports team like a basketball or a football team is everybody performs, everybody plays. There's no second string, there's nobody that sits on the bench. They all get a part of that, and so we find that kids really desire to learn these skills too, and it's really fun to work with them.
That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned that the children's choir is a non-competitive environment.
That's
Correct.
true. There are auditions, and you have to meet certain expectations to move to the next level, but there are no losers. You're in the ensemble, and you're in the ensemble, and when we sing a concert, everybody wins. And that's really true teamwork, in my opinion. And as Denice said, nobody sits on the bench, nobody comes in second place. It's really wonderful.
I think one of the advantages to all the performing arts, theater, music as well, is the accountability that it develops in a child. I mean, if you don't show up to do your part, the other kids will be mad as well.
Exactly.
Your peers, not just your teacher.
Exactly.
You really owe it. And I know that when I was in choir in high school, that's one of the first things I learned was be there on time. You're a part of a team, and that's important. And so I'm glad that you kind of reinforce those skills.
Absolutely.
And kids are busy, so it's really important for us. We talk a lot about accountability with them and making decisions and prioritizing. We're dealing with it right now with some families that kids are busy, and we know that. And so how do we help them make good decisions about what they're going to be involved in school and with us, and understanding the requirements? And accountability is huge.
And when does the choir rehearse?
It depends on the ensemble. We have rehearsals every day of the week. Most of our ensembles only rehearse once a week, but our concert choir, which is our highest treble voiced or ensemble, rehearses twice a week.
You also do concerts, and you have one coming up actually on March 25th. You have the Young Artist Concert. Tell us a little bit about that, where it is, and what you'll be performing.
It's at First Wayne Street United Methodist Church, which is a beautiful, beautiful sanctuary, and acoustically just phenomenal. That will feature three of our top ensembles: the Youth Chorale, which is our high school component; Chamber Singers, which is a select ensemble from within the Youth Chorale; and our concert choir. And the whole program is really emphasizing what kind of artistry these young people can do on their own. And I should also mention that on one of the pieces we have, to continue with this theme, we have members of the Fort Wayne Youth Symphony serving as the accompanists. So it's really kids working with kids to create some really beautiful and powerful music.
And the acoustics I hear in First Wayne Street Methodist is just, they're just outstanding.
It's really, and I've programmed it with that in mind. It's fun to have a space like that to work with and say, okay, this piece will just sound stunning,
Well, you're also going to be doing a little bit of traveling, which is very, very exciting. You're taking, which choir is it? Your senior-most choir to England?
We're taking our concert choir to England, which is our most advanced treble ensemble. It's primarily late middle school, early high school kids. And we're going to Canterbury Cathedral to perform in a Canterbury Cathedral Children's Choir Festival. with 9 other children's choirs. And we'll also be in Stratford-upon-Avon, we'll be in Oxford, we'll be in London, so we'll get around a little bit while we're there.
When will that be?
August 23rd, or excuse me, July 23rd through August 2nd.
Oh my gosh! And how many singers are you taking?
24. 24 singers and chaperones. And then we're also going to Washington, D.C. with our high school group. And we're taking a similar number of kids, and they're doing a performance-based tour throughout D.C., performing in some wonderfully old churches, and doing a lot of fun sightseeing, too, for our high school kids.
And do you do this often? Do you take them?
We tour annually.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We don't do international tours every year, but every 2 or 3 years we do a big trip internationally. The last one was Newfoundland, Festival 500, and we've been all over Europe, and it's really an exciting part of our program.
Well, who takes care of all these kids while you're there? I mean, I hope it's not just the two of you.
No.
We have a little bit of help.
Yeah, we do.
We have fantastic chaperones, parents of the kids, and our director of operations, Janet Treadway, is just amazing.
Amazing.
And, she really runs the organization, and we just get to appear on TV.
She sweats the details, in
Yes,
other
she
words.
does. Yeah.
Well, coming up in 2012, and I know this is still in the planning stages, but you're putting together something very exciting, which is the Young Voices Children's Festival. And what is that about?
It's a festival just like what we're going to in England, but it's for younger voices. It's typical for children's choirs for the late middle school kids to go on tours. What we wanted to do is offer an opportunity for the younger kids to have a more local kind of tour, not so far away, a shortened amount of days to be away from home, and to work with a world-renowned clinician and understand the importance of touring, so as they get older to go on the bigger trips, that they can feel like they can do that with some ease instead of intrepidation. So we've already hired Rollo Dilworth. He's a world-renowned children's choir clinician and composer to come to Fort Wayne. We'll have the festival here at IPFW, so we'll be performing our final concert in our performance hall and doing all of our rehearsals and everything here on campus.
Boy, another great opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, we're almost out of time, but just explain to our viewers one last time, if your child is interested in being a part of the Fort Wayne Children's Choir, what do they do? Give you a call, contact their high school teacher, and what's the best way to go about doing that?
They can contact their music teacher, they can give us a call at the number on the screen, they can visit our website at fwcchoir.org. Google us, find us online.
You're on the web and everything like that.
And
Facebook.
we'll get, yes, we have a Facebook page. Get in touch with us.
Well, it's a fantastic choir. If anybody's not had a chance to see them perform, they really are one of the treasures of Fort Wayne, and I really congratulate you both for doing such a wonderful job, and welcome to your new leadership capacities at the Fort Wayne Children's Choir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For more information about the Fort Wayne Children's Choir or how you can get involved, please visit fwcchoir.org or call 481-0481. Arts Weekly will return in a moment. Welcome back to Arts Weekly. Joining me is Thom Hofrichter, Managing Director of the First Presbyterian Theater. He's here to talk about Shakespeare's As You Like It, now playing at the theater. Thom, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's always great to come here.
So Thom, you're running the First Presbyterian Theater. You're directing As You Like It. You're going to be the lead role in King Lear here at IPFW. My question for you, Thom, is are you insane?
A little bit, but it's been a Shakespeare year for me. I started off in first couple of weeks of August. I went down to Florida, Pensacola Shakespeare Theater, and I played Dogberry in a production of Much Ado. And I'm directing As You Like It. Then I go to play King Lear for John O'Connell asked me, and that's a mountain that every actor dreams of getting the chance to stumble up.
Yes, indeed.
Hopefully not fall down.
Well, you got the beard thing going on.
It's starting to get there. And then actually we're going to open next season with Henry IV.
Wow.
A new adaptation that Jack Canty's going to do, and I'm going to play Falstaff. So back to back, I'm going from Lear to Falstaff to amazing Shakespeare.
Well, you know,
roles.
you can't get enough of Shakespeare. It's good stuff. But let's talk about As You Like It, one of his so-called pastoral comedies. Yeah, what is As You Like It about?
For me, it's very much a romantic comedy, like You've Got Mail, or in some ways,
What Women Want.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's chick flick is the wrong way to think of it. Chick theater maybe, but it's this wonderful play about what is love. How do people fall in love? How stupid are we when we fall in love? How do we, that moment when you see someone and you just, somehow your soul flies out of your body and does a couple of laps around the earth before it comes back, and you're dancing all the time and you're tongue-tied, and the world is just a prettier, brighter, lovelier place. Which is interesting, because the world that Shakespeare starts the play in is horrible and ugly, but love conquers that horribleness.
So I always thought it was a play where girls dressed up like guys and fooled us.
Well, it's that too.
Well,
but that's a lot of Shakespeare. Shakespeare loves to, well, originally it was little boys who were pretending to be girls who then were pretending to be boys, because when Shakespeare wrote these, all those female roles were played by men or young men.
That's just way too complicated.
Yeah, so there's some weird gender politics, and people have written academic articles about it, but I don't really understand them.
But you mentioned that that the play sort of starts off, as many Shakespeare plays do, in a bit of disarray. We have our heroine, Rosalind, whose father is usurped as the Duke, and
Correct.
she is banished out into the forest.
Yes.
So here we are out into the forest, where she meets up with Orlando.
With Orlando, and it's immediate. I mean, it is, they talk about Cupid, the blind boy who just shoots an arrow into your heart, and immediately they are magically taken with one another.
But the device is that she is not Rosalind. To disguise herself from getting caught by the Duke, she has disguised herself
Correct.
as a man.
Yeah, because she meets Orlando in the court in the city, and they kind of have that moment where they fall in love, and then she gets banished, so her and her cousin Celia go out to the woods, and she dresses like a boy, and there she runs into Orlando.
And they become friends.
And she's dressed like a boy, so she can't really tell him, let him know. So she starts this elaborate ruse about, why don't you come to me? You say you're so in love. I don't think you are. Why don't you prove it? Or you're so miserable because you're in love, because Orlando's walking around the forest going, oh, I'm so in love, I'm so in love. And everybody's going, oh, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
And he's
Carving
love poems on all the trees. And,
Yes.
and Rosalind says, if you are really miserable, I will make you stop being in love. Come and pretend that I am Rosalind, which she really is, and woo me, and I will break you of your love for her.
And isn't
so
that
that's
one of
the conceit?
Exactly, and isn't that one of really the most intriguing scenes in the whole play? For those of us who've seen it, it's one of the few scenes, one of the many scenes, I should say, that you really come to see, because you have, Rosalind dressed as a boy telling the guy that she's in love with and who's in love with her how to woo her.
Right, exactly. And basically giving him the inside track, but in some ways kind of messing with his head, because again, this idea of, think about it, if you were able, that person that you fall head over heels in love with, if you were able to convince them to tell you really all the truth about themselves, to find out whether they were really worthy of your love, who wouldn't take that shot? And so that's kind of what she's doing too, is trying to get to the truth of who he really is, and is this love really a long-lasting love? And it turns out that yes, it is.
Indeed, it is. That's what makes it romance. But to complicate things even further, and Shakespeare loves to do this. He's done a lot of people think of Shakespeare as stodgy stuff with a strange accent, but it's really pretty funny, and it goes in directions you don't expect, because he sort of did the same thing in Twelfth Night with the character Viola, who also is exiled and has to dress as a boy and ends up befriending the man who falls in love with her, but first as a boy. But the funniest thing is then, while Rosalind is dressed as a boy, as Ganymede, another girl falls in love with her.
And so which makes her go, no, I can't really love you, but I can't really tell the guy that I love him because I'm dressed as a guy. And meanwhile, the guy who's pretending that she is a boy keeps having these weird thoughts about this boy, and he's like, boy, that doesn't feel kind of right. I kind of am falling in love with him, her, but yet it's because she is pretending to be the girl I really love. So it is, Shakespeare just ties your mind in knots. And if you're listening to this going, I'm a little confused, Shakespeare makes it perfectly clear. There's no way to miss what he's doing on stage, because it's everybody's falling in love with everybody, and you get to see the human folly of what love is all about.
And that's what makes it fun. Of course,
absolutely.
As You Like It is famous for a particular line that most of us know of. And it's actually a soliloquy that's spoken by the character Jacques, and it's all the world's a stage. And all of us merely players. I probably have that wrong.
Yeah, no, it's all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. But it's this idea that and then he talks about the 7 stages.
The 7 stages of man.
When you're young, you're a little baby mewling and puking, and then you're a little boy who's going, fresh-faced to school, and then you start falling in love, and then you become the soldier, and then you become the businessman or the judge.
And you become fat in the belly, and then you become powerful.
Yep.
And then you begin to get old again, and you revert to
your childishness.
You revert to a baby again.
Right, and the 7th stage is mere oblivion, sans teeth, sans eyes, sans everything.
Yeah,
this idea
mere oblivion.
That eventually, what Hamlet would call this quintessence of dust. This idea that we are all headed to, this physical body is headed to nothingness.
That's incredibly insightful, isn't it?
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful play. And one of the great things, we have a very talented actor, Mike Young, who 2 years ago went through some serious health crises. And we almost lost him. And hearing him do that speech gives me chills every night.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
beautiful.
What draws you to Shakespeare? Is it the language? Is the
It's
plot?
the language. It's the language.
I mean, just that one soliloquy right there is so magical. It's so poetic, and he doesn't talk like you or I, and he says it so much better.
Yeah.
He's better than me.
Well, and people always talk about, he's talking the way people talk back then. No, he's writing this incredibly eloquent poetry. And the beauty in Shakespeare, because the plots, quite honestly, he stole them all. He made them better after he stole them, but he stole all the plots from other people and rewrote other people's work. But he finds a way with beautiful, beautiful words to say what is locked inside every human soul, which is one of the reasons, obviously First Presbyterian Theater is in a church. And why do we do Shakespeare? Because we are looking for that connection with the human soul. What is it to be human? And boy, Shakespeare understood and was able to find a way through his art to reveal, in this case, what it is to fall in love and what that does to the soul. It's a beautiful play.
It really is. Now, some directors take Shakespeare and they change the time period. Obviously, Shakespeare wrote in the Elizabethan times. This play was written, I would assume, at the end of the 1500s.
Yeah, I think so.
But did you choose to set it back in that period, or are you?
No, we almost
always
change the period just for purely pragmatic, practical reasons. Number one, we don't. You're looking at the primary employee of First Presbyterian Theater. We have a tech director who helps us get sets up. Everybody else is really volunteers. So the costumes, the kind of costuming you're talking about, takes hundreds of thousands of hours when you are going into a professional Shakespeare company. So just making those costumes and getting those costumes is kind of prohibitive. So we usually set it someplace within the last 100, 150 years, just for pragmatic reasons, because we can't really afford the costumes.
But the language is still there.
Language
the play
is still there.
there.
And really, what he's talking about are eternal truths about humanity. So it really doesn't matter where you set it, or even if you set something like Macbeth, you set it in World War II, and it's like, how come they're fighting with knives instead of guns if it's World War II? You kind of forget about that immediately once you hear these words, and once you hear these characters revealing who they are and what their life journey is.
You speak about Shakespeare's words, and actually he has two fundamental ways that he uses language, does he not? He has the poetic, the verse, oftentimes rhymed, certainly in iambic pentameter, which is kind of the melodious 1-2-1-2 beat of words, but he also has prose.
Right.
And what is the function between the two different ways that Shakespeare speaks and uses language in his plays?
Generally, the prose, and again, Shakespeare, when you start talking about Shakespearean rules, like all great artists, he breaks his rules consistently. But the prose generally is for elevated moments and for elevated characters, and the prose is generally for the lower class characters and the more low characters, and the poetry is usually for the more upper class characters.
Well, that's something for us to remember when they watch the play. You know, I didn't realize it, but we're out of time now, Thom. But the play runs this upcoming weekend.
Yes.
You can catch it. I look forward to seeing it myself. And, you know, stay sane with all this Shakespeare you're doing.
And the audiences are laughing, laughing, laughing. So come laugh. Shakespeare's not as serious as we would all like to pretend sometimes.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
For more information about the First Presbyterian Theater and how you can get tickets for As You Like It, visit firstpresfw.org or call 422-6329. Missed us on PBS on Sundays? You can also check us out on the internet. Arts Weekly can be seen on YouTube and Facebook, and you can follow us on Twitter. Just search for Arts Weekly. As always, Arts Weekly can be seen Tuesday through Thursday on College Access Television. I'm Chuck O'Connor. Thanks for tuning in to Arts Weekly. Join me next week with guests Karen Gibbons-Brown from the Fort Wayne Ballet and Sue Davis from the Orchard Gallery of Fine Art. See you next week.